Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into one of the most critical geopolitical flashpoints on the planet. The headlines are blazing with warnings coming out of the Middle East, specifically centering on Iran, the United States, and Israel. The topic we are dissecting today is the severe threat regarding the Strait of Hormuz. There have been reports and strong statements suggesting that the Iranian leadership is vowing to keep blocking, or effectively threatening to block, the Strait of Hormuz. This is not just a regional border dispute. We are talking about the most important oil transit choke point in the world. If this waterway is shut down, the global economy faces a shock that could dwarf the energy crises of the past. In this video, we are going to break down exactly what the Strait of Hormuz is, why Iran is threatening to close it now amidst their conflict with Israel and the United States, and what this actually means for your wallet, the global supply chain, and the risk of a wider war. First, let us look at the geography. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow, strategic waterway located between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It serves as the only passage for ships to enter or exit the Persian Gulf. At its narrowest point, the strait is just 21 miles wide. However, the shipping lanes are even narrower, only 2 miles wide in each direction, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. To put this in perspective, this narrow strip of water is the aorta for the global energy market. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, roughly 1/5 of the world total oil consumption passes through this strait every single day. We are talking about over 20 million barrels of oil and petroleum products daily. For countries like Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, the Strait of Hormuz is their lifeline to the international markets. If the faucet is turned off here, their economies essentially freeze, and for the rest of the world, specifically energy-hungry nations in Asia and Europe, the loss of this supply would send oil prices spiraling to heights we have not seen in decades, potentially breaking records overnight. Now, why is Iran threatening this waterway? Iran controls the northern coastline of the strait. This gives them a massive strategic leverage. For years, Iran has maintained a policy of deterrence, often suggesting that if they cannot export their own oil due to sanctions, or if their national security is threatened by the West or Israel, they will ensure no one else can use the strait either. The recent spike in tensions comes after a massive escalation involving missile attacks between Iran and Israel. Just yesterday, on October 1st, Iran fired nearly 200 ballistic missiles toward Israel. This was a direct retaliation for the killing of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and IRGC commanders. In the wake of this, the rhetoric from Tehran has become increasingly aggressive. While the supreme leader himself remains the ultimate authority, statements from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, have been clear. They view the presence of U.S. aircraft carriers and destroyers in the region as a direct threat. Consequently, they have signaled that the Strait of Hormuz could be used as a pressure point. How does the United States factor into this? The U.S. Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, is tasked with security in this region. Washington has long stated that the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz is a vital national interest. The U.S. Navy routinely patrols these waters to ensure freedom of navigation. However, we are now in a dangerous game of chicken. With the U.S. backing Israel and providing defensive interceptor systems against Iranian missiles, Iran is looking for other ways to inflict pain. Disrupting oil shipping is the classic asymmetrical warfare tactic. They do not need to defeat the U.S. Navy in a direct ship-to-ship battle. They simply need to make the area so dangerous that insurance companies refuse to cover tankers passing through. If insurance rates spike, shipping companies stop sending vessels. It creates an economic blockade without Iran necessarily having to physically sink a ship, although the risk of mining the strait or using suicide drones is very real. Let us talk about the economic impact. The moment a serious blockade is threatened or enforced, the price of Brent crude oil would likely surge. Analysts predict we could see prices rocketing past $100, potentially even reaching $150 per barrel depending on the duration of the closure. This translates directly to pain at the pump for you. Gasoline prices in the United States and Europe would climb, but the damage would be even more severe in developing nations that are net importers of energy. We could see a ripple effect that triggers global inflation, disrupts the supply chain of goods that rely on cheap transport, and could potentially tip fragile economies into recession. It is not just about oil either. Liquefied natural gas, or LNG, from Qatar also passes through this strait. With Europe already trying to wean itself off Russian gas, a disruption in Qatari supplies would be a catastrophic blow to the European energy grid, especially as winter approaches in the northern hemisphere. From a military perspective, how would Iran actually attempt to block the strait? They have a vast arsenal of asymmetric weapons. We are talking about thousands of naval mines, both older contact mines and more advanced influence mines. They possess fast attack craft that swarm larger ships using shoot-and-scoot tactics. They have coastal anti-ship missiles like the Kalij Fars, which are designed to take out aircraft carriers from land-based launchers. Perhaps most concerningly, they have a massive network of drones. These are cheap, expendable, and hard to detect on radar. A swarm of drones attacking a commercial tanker or a U.S. destroyer could overwhelm even the most advanced defense systems like the Aegis combat system. Furthermore, the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who are allied with Iran, have already demonstrated their capability to strike shipping in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. If the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, we could see a multi-front closure of the Middle East waterways, effectively sealing off the region from maritime trade. The political rhetoric is heating up just as fast as the military posturing. Israel has vowed to retaliate against Iran for the missile attacks. If Israel strikes Iranian oil infrastructure or nuclear sites, Tehran has explicitly stated that the response will come from the entire region. This code phrase implies that their proxies, including militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthis, will spring into action, and that the Strait of Hormuz will be a primary theater of operations. The United States is trying to walk a tightrope. President Biden has stated clearly that the U.S. will defend Israel, but he is also desperate to avoid a broader regional war that could sink the U.S. economy and hurt his administration politically. The U.S. is currently sending additional naval assets to the region, including the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group, to act as a deterrent and to shoot down any incoming missiles, much like they did during the attack on October 1st. Internationally, the response has been one of alarm. European nations, who are already dealing with the fallout of the war in Ukraine, cannot afford another energy shock. China, which is a major buyer of Iranian and Saudi oil, has been calling for restraint, but they also have deep economic ties with Tehran. A closure of the strait hurts China immensely, which puts them in a difficult diplomatic position. We are essentially seeing a standoff where Iran is betting that the economic pain of a closed strait will force the international community to pressure the U.S. and Israel to back down. It is a gamble. If the West blinks, Iran secures a strategic victory. If the West responds with overwhelming military force to reopen the strait, we are looking at a full-scale conventional war that could draw in major powers. So where do we go from here? Intelligence reports suggest that while Iran has the capability to mine the strait or harass shipping, they have not fully pulled the trigger yet. Why? Because closing the strait hurts Iran too. They rely on the sale of smuggled oil to keep their economy afloat amidst heavy sanctions. If they close the strait, they cut off their own revenue. However, desperate times call for desperate measures. If the Iranian leadership feels the existence of the regime is threatened, the economic cost becomes a secondary concern. The vow to block the strait is a signal of resolve. It is a message saying that if Iran goes down, it will take the global economy down with it. We are watching a historical moment unfold. The Strait of Hormuz has been a flashpoint since the 1980s during the tanker war, but the stakes are higher now. The global economy is more interconnected and energy markets are tighter. Any disruption here sends shockwaves around the world instantly. For now, shipping continues, but the shadow of conflict looms large. Tankers are changing their routes, increasing security details, and warships are on high alert. The next few days will be critical. If Israel follows through on its threat to strike Iran, and Iran responds by targeting shipping in the Persian Gulf, we will enter a new phase of this conflict, one that is not fought just with missiles, but with economic warfare that affects every single person watching this video. We will continue to monitor the situation in the Persian Gulf and provide updates as the news breaks. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell so you do not miss our analysis on these rapidly evolving events. Thank you for watching today. We know the news can be scary and overwhelming, but understanding these global dynamics is the first step toward being prepared. If you found this analysis helpful, please give us a like and share this video with your friends. Drop a comment below and let us know how you think the international community should handle the threats coming out of Iran. Stay safe, stay informed, and we will see you in the next video.